Ahoy music lovers, vinyl enthusiasts, and everyone in between. I'm Isaac, this is The Blind Island, and today I am coming at you with a vinyl finds video. And today just might be the biggest haul yet. May was a huge month for the collection, and I'm not going to be including many needle drops in this one just because of how many records are here. I have a stack of almost 40 records to get through, and I am not trying to make this video an hour long, so we're just gonna tackle it. I broke it up into the contemporary finds first, and then the used records, and at the end you'll be kind of getting a little bit more of the heat on each section. So you'll have at the very end of the contemporary a little bit more on the rare side, same with the used. So without any further introduction, let's get into it. So first and foremost, I have the MTAT, Total Nonstop Action. This record is from the Funk Night Records label, and you really have to check this label out, guys. Housed out of Detroit, Michigan. Just some really stellar instrumental funk music coming out of there. It is muscular, it is hard-hitting. There is just so much to love about so many of the groups that are signed to the Funk Night record label, and that can be easily said about the MTAT. If you're really a fan of the Delvin Lamar organ trio, then you're going to love the MTAT Total Nonstop Action. Just a lot of really great organ work on here, and some really solid guitar solos as well. Really cool. Next is a artist that was introduced on Spotify, and I've seen him kind of start to float into the music community, but this is Sven Wonder, Wabi Sabi. This is the reissue of the very limited edition that came out first. I think it sold out within the first 5 minutes. This one is a little bit more available, even though it is still incredibly limited. This is an amazing, very relaxed, Japanese-oriented world jazz music. I don't even know how to fully explain it, but just go and check out everything that Sven Wonder has done. He is an amazing contemporary artist working in this idiom. And speaking of which, I got the album that got me really into him, and that is Eastern Flowers. This is a really great 60s style. It reminds me of kind of Turkish Bollywood soundtracks with the psychedelic leaning, and there's also a lot of jazz funk to be thrown in there for good measure. This is an incredible record, and one that will no doubt be a favorite for crate diggers in the future. So really cool album right here. Then another album that will be making my year-end list, no doubt. This is Matt Berry, The Blue Elephant. This came out this year, and his last album that came out in 2020 was more introspective, far more focused on the songwriting and the lyricism. This one has more of a hazy, psychedelic, reverb-drenched aura all about it. It is so beautiful. There are elements of jazz in here as well, and this man truly is a Renaissance man. He is playing 18 instruments on this record, only to be helped by one other musician playing the drums, and he's just a polymath. Matt Berry is also one of my favorite comedians working today, and one of my favorite shows, What We Do in the Shadows. This is a great album with incredible 60s appeal. I highly recommend anybody pick up a copy. You can still pick up copies relatively cheap right now, but because it is a UK import, no doubt they'll start to rise in price. And these are two reissues of albums that I know I will never really come across, and if I do, the prices will probably be something I'm not comfortable paying. This is the 2010 reissue of Noise, first debut record, and This is an incredible krautrock album. This came on white vinyl, and it is a really nice remaster. Sounds excellent on the turntable, and what's even better is I only paid $17.99 in comparison to the $150 to $250 range that the original pressings are usually going for. So really happy to have this reissue on vinyl. And then have their 1975 follow-up, Noi 75, and this to me is their best record. It brings together everything that they have been working on and culminates it into one amazing package. If you're looking for something that's a little bit more friendly to the ears while still being very much in the art krautrock idiom, this is really going to just sing to you. It's an incredible album, and really happy to have this reissue on vinyl. This was a record that came out last year and finally reaching my ears. I have their other album they came out with a few years back, Camden Sessions. This one brings in elements of hip-hop, and this is Butcher Brown, hashtag King Butch. This is a great funk hip-hop record. I really enjoy just the very big Basie sound of the band. The horns are really crisp. The production value on here is tremendous. This is a great record. And also, if you're looking to kind of get into jazz funk, but you're more of a hip-hop person, this is a great place for you to get started. I'm not really into hip-hop all that much, but this is a great album for lovers of hip-hop music to get into jazz funk. Really cool album, and one that will no doubt be spinning on a lot of DJs' tables once venues start to open up here soon. And then I picked up this record. There's a lot of nostalgia here with this one. I listened to this a lot when I was in my early years in college, and this is The Silver Wars, Barton Hollow. I just really love the play of these two folks right here, John Paul White, and I don't know why her name is escaping me at the moment. She's the one that I like even more, but I think her last name is Williams, Joy Williams. And man, they just have a great interplay. Their vocals just blend and bleed into one another, and it's just really good Americana folk. Some people want to label this as country. I think it's a little too poppy to be quite that, but really enjoy this Americana music. And while I've grown to like others that are a little bit more adventurous, this is a really great nostalgic grab for me. The original pressing, and it's definitely grown in value a little bit. It's up to about $35 on Discogs, and I was able to find a copy of this for $25, so I was pretty happy grabbing it for that cost. And another reissue that I was super happy to find, this is the 75th anniversary issue of Grant Greene's Idle Moments. This was released back in 2014. I found this one at one of my favorite shops in Oshkosh, Roding Winds, and this is just one of my favorite Blue Note records ever released. It has this sleepy bar tone to it, like it was really created in the idle moments in the midnight hours. And I just think if you're looking for a good jazz album to get yourself acquainted with jazz, you're a little too thrown away by a lot of the fast moving stuff, the notes all over the place, this is a great place for you to get started. A good mood album. And then finally, for the contemporary stuff, this was a record kind of sold to me by Ken over at Paramount Records. They have their own channel here, Deep Grooves. Check them out, subscribe to their channel. I talked to him, it was up on the wall, and it's one I've been wanting a really long time. It's a Tone Poet, and I asked him, what do you think of this reissue? And he said, it sounds even better than the original pressings. So I brought it home, threw it on the table, and while I don't know what an original pressing sounds like, I'm so happy to have this one. This is Money Jungle with Duke Ellington, Max Roach, and Charles Mingus. This has been a record I've been looking for a very long time, and even the tone poets are starting to go into astronomical prices, usually being shipped from overseas. I am just so happy to have this album, and I can definitely say that the packaging and the vinyl quality has not been oversold or overhyped. This is an incredible pressing of this incredible album, and I'm very, very happy to have it in our collection. One of my favorite jazz albums of all time, probably in my top 10. So really, really cool record. Very happy to have this one. Alright guys, now we're going into the used stuff. First, I am going to go through Alice Cooper, Easy Action. This is a 1972 reissue, and I really love the early Alice Cooper material. It has a little bit more of a psychedelic bend to it, rather than the glam that they would go down and the gothic route. But I really, really enjoy this album. You definitely start to get the hint of where they're going to be headed to, since this was their second record. But I really enjoy a lot of the material that's on here. I think it's a really heavy, hard-hitting album, and very happy to have it in the collection. And then I have Alice Cooper, Pretty's For You. Now, this is a 72 reissue as well, and I got this one because I just never see copies of this, at least in decent condition, and the record is in good shape. It has, it's in just this regular sleeve, but I got it for $3, and every copy I've ever seen is usually between 40 and 60, and I don't know if I'd be willing to spend that much on an original pressing. I might get a reissue now that I know what it sounds like and I know that I enjoy it. I hear that the remasters are really great for this, so really cool to have this one also in the collection. And then I went on a Little Feat binge. My wife introduced me to Little Feat, and I've really, really been getting more into their discography beyond Waiting for Columbus. This is their 1980, I want to say 88. Yeah, 1988 kind of comeback album, and this is Let It Roll by Little Feat. And so many of these rockers that came back in the 80s coming out with comeback albums, they're really bad or they sound incredibly dated. But this one, it's not their best, but it definitely has a lot of great elements in it. A lot of the elements that made you fall in love with Little Feat to begin with. So really cool record with a lot of great elements to just get you introduced into Little Feat. And then continuing on the Little Feat train, I have their self-titled debut record. This is a 1971 reissue. Their original pressings are now astronomical money. And this is a great, solid blues Americana album. And so if you're a fan of groups like The Band, Grateful Dead, then you're really going to find yourself gravitating towards the sounds of Little Feat. Really, really great debut album from this group. And then we have their second record, Little Feat Sailing Shoes. This is a really wonderful album. They took a song or two from their debut and reworked them, and I think they sound even better on this record. I think that Little Feat is one of those groups that definitely gets accolades, but they're under-recognized. They're not underrated, but they're under-recognized in the music community, and I think that they definitely are deserving of a reevaluation, especially by the younger generation. And what we've got playing right now, this is Erich von Schmidt and the Cruel Family. This came out in 1977, and man, I just love Erich von Schmidt. I think that he is just one of those folkies that, again, he has the accolades, but he's under-recognized. Even Dave Van Ronk gets a little bit more recognition. I know that Erich von Schmidt is seen as a guy who influenced Bob Dylan, but he's more than just a Dylan influence. He has an amazing career all of his own, and this is a great record. It kind of reminds me almost of a Tom Waits album. He has an extremely gruff, guttural vocal delivery on this record, and I just can't get enough of it. It's a really, really great album, and if you're looking for some good folk blues, this is a great place to go. All right, and next we have a little bit more on the avant-garde free side of jazz, Dewey Redman's Coincide. This is an album where Dewey Redman, well-known avant-garde jazz instrumentalist, plays a lot with different instruments. He plays on the zither for 2 tracks, he plays on the clarinet, and he goes to his normal instrument, the tenor sax. And my favorite tune on here is Quar. It's a 10-minute saxophone workout for him, and it's a little bit more grounded. If you are looking to push yourself, that's a great place to go. Unfortunately, this record can't be streamed anywhere, but this is a really nice avant-garde, free-leaning album for people who want to get a little bit more into free jazz. So on the Impulse label 1974 release, the actual inner liner notes are done by Robert Palmer. So really cool facts, and I think that this is a really great jazz record. Next, I have Giant's self-titled debut album. This was kind of a super group. Santana plays the guitar on here, and this is a really great funk record. You know, it has some mixed reviews online, but it was recently spotlighted on Noble Records, and I think that was definitely worth the spotlight. This is a really, really great record. There are some really good tunes that kind of go towards the rock funk direction, and then other tunes that kind of bring it back and put it more in the pocket. A lot of repetition, but really, really cool album. One that's highly recommended on my side here. And then we have another album by a very unknown funk group, and this is Ripple. Self-titled debut, promotional copy with a radio strip, and man, there are some really, really good tunes on here. My favorite being But It Sure Is Funky. That actually has quite a few streams online. It makes me wonder if it was used in a soundtrack someplace, but this is, if you're a fan of that funky Quentin Tarantino style music, this will really be up your alley. Cool record. I found this one also at Eroding Winds, and I just, with a cover like that and the writing on there and the radio strip, it just called to me. I needed to check it out, and I'm really happy that I did. Really cool album. Another really cheap grab, and one that I'm happy to have in the collection, is McCoy Tyner Horizon. Again, part of that prolific, amazing output that he put on the Milestone label in the 70s and 80s. This again just follows in that same rhythm that he was in for Sahara, Song for a Lady, Fly With Me. It's just a little bit more stripped down, and Tyner's playing is just truly on another level. Really, really cool album, and you can pick this one up for about $6 to $8 usually. I mean, his material on Milestone is not expensive, and it is really, really high quality jazz. So really cool album. Glad to have it. Another cheap pickup. Found this one at an antique mall. This is the Blackbirds Action. This was a backing group for Donald Byrd. They also attended classes that Donald Byrd had taught. I think in New York City. I can't remember the name of the institution. But after backing him on classic releases for Blue Note, they went and made their own records, and this is some really good, just discified jazz funk pop. Really, really good. The standout track here is Mysterious Vibes. Definitely sounds like something that would be used on lots of different soundtracks, and I love this album. Really, really cool. And I think that if you're, again, looking to get into funk music, this is a great place to go. And then this is the direct follow-up to that album. This is the Blackbirds Better Days. This is a West German pressing. And wow, this, again, just really good. I don't think it's quite as good as their previous album, Action, but definitely high-quality material found on this record. And then we get into the King. I have been revisiting a lot of Elvis's music and picked up a couple of his studio albums. Elvis Country. This one has some really great stuff, followed with a couple of like mediocre tracks, but overall it's a very strong studio album. His studio output to me isn't the best material in the world, but there are some really, really great songs on here. Tomorrow Never Comes, his version of Whole Lotta Shakin', I Wash My Hands in the Muddy Water, Make the World Go Away. And some people find this album to be frustrating though, because he does intersperse the, or I don't know who made the decision, maybe the producer, to intersperse the song I'm 10,000 Years Old in between every single track, so it kind of bleeds into every single song. I think it's a good way to hold the whole project together, but other people just want to hear the song and not the interlude. So it depends on what your thoughts are, but I think this is a really, really solid studio album from a guy who just really didn't usually put out that type of material. And to me, this is his best studio record of all time. This is from Elvis in Memphis. This is Elvis soul. This is Elvis just really hitting with the Muscle Shoals crew and just flexing. He's flexing hard on here. There are so many great songs on this one too. My favorites are Only the Strong Survive, Long Black Limousine, and Power of My Love. I just wish that they had included the single that they cut during the session, Suspicious Minds, too. But if they had included that, it might have been just too much goodness for one record to contain. Really, really solid. If you're not an Elvis fan, give this one a listen. It might change your mind. And then going with a little country. This is Johnny Cash and June Carter, Carrying On. I love the interplay between Johnny Cash and June Carter. They just have such a great dynamic. Really, really cool record, and includes the classics Jackson, Long-Legged Guitar Picking Man, and It Ain't Me Babe, Shantytown. I think that this is a really great just country duet album, so really cool. I think it's not a great artistic statement, but it's a lot of fun. And then I have another great jazz album, continuing to add to my Impulse collection. This is Count Basie and the Kansas City 7. This is good cocktail jazz. There's not going to be anything here that's going to be challenging you all that much. This is going to be great for a dinner party. And I think that there's a lot of good swing that Basie usually brings to the table when he's a leader. But there's also a lot of romanticism to be found, too. This is on an original pressing of this record. And again, this one doesn't go for a lot of money. I don't know why. This is a really great set. I just think because Count Basie is attached to it. But it's a real shame because it's a really great album. And you know what? Maybe it's not a shame because people like you and I can pick this one up for cheap. Then here's an album that I want to take some time on, and I think that I might do a solo review of this record. This is Steve Eliasson, Dawn Dance. This is an ECM recording released in 1981. This might be one of the best sounding albums I have in my collection. It is crisp, it is clear, and it is totally immersive. It sounds like he is literally playing guitar right in the room with you. And this would be an album for fans of Steve Tibbetts, just that really big world sounding guitar with an amazing percussion. I don't know why he didn't come out with more material. He came out with this one album and then he disappeared off the face of the earth. Nobody really knows what happens to him. All that we know is that he released this one record. He's a South African guitarist, and it is one of the best guitar jazz albums I have heard this year. And you can pick this one up for, oh, I mean, 10, 12 bucks. I picked this up for $2 at an antique mall, and I am so happy I did because I've been listening to this over and over again, and it unlocks another level of beauty every single time I listen. So really cool record. And a classic out of Minneapolis, this is Running, Jumping, Standing Still by Spider John Corner and Willie Murphy. This is just that really great Dixieland folk Americana blues that was really popular in the mid to late 60s and released on the Elektra label. This has become somewhat of a collector's item for people in the Midwest. You can still find copies of this really cheap. I found this one only for $5, but it's a solid record. I would highly recommend that you check out this song, Old Brown Dog. It's 8 minutes, 10 seconds, but geez, I really enjoy that tune. And this is a really cool album for anyone to give a listen to. And another guy that I've been giving a second chance and finding myself just enchanted each time that I listen to a record that he has released. This is Ry Cooder, Chicken Skin Music. Many people usually say this is his best album, and I have a hard time disagreeing with them. This is lots of different world elements into this folk blues genre style, and I just love all of the songs that are on here. Excellent sequencing. Ry's voice really fits well with every tune that he chose to sing on here. And a personal favorite of mine is He'll Have to Go. Just a really great Mexicali redone version of an old country honky-tonk song. Really cool, and a great album for anyone to give Ry Cooder a chance with. And speaking of Ry, we're starting to get into the more valuable, kind of a little bit harder to find pieces here. And I found this one at an antique mall, $5. Really happy to grab this. This is Paris, Texas, the soundtrack to the motion picture film by Ry Cooder. This is pretty much just Ry on his slide guitar, creating atmospheric, ambient, background music for a very beautiful film, but the soundtrack in of itself is just beautiful, very thought-provoking, and emotional. I think that this is just an incredible album, and I was just so happy that I could finally put this amazing soundtrack to our collection. And then another one that I was amazed to find is Big Bill's Blues. This is Big Bill Brunsey. This is a great blues album. Just Big Bill and his guitar and his indelible, incredible voice. I think this is an original copy on that gold label, Adventures in Sound, and I'm so happy to have this one in the collection. I think that this is one of Big Bill didn't really come out with a lot of albums while he was alive. He died very shortly after recording this record, and technically it is a compilation of songs that he had recorded, but I think that he made all of the songs that were collected here in one session, and it has this conversational atmosphere to the recordings, and I really dig this album. Really happy to find a solid blues album here in Wisconsin. It doesn't happen very often, and usually you have to pay big money. That one has dropped in price significantly over the years, but I'm just still very happy to have it. This is an album that was introduced to me by a friend of mine, and it sounds like Nico if she had just decided to stay in the more folk tradition. kind of blended with Karen Dalton. This is Bridget St. John, Songs for the Gentleman. And this is a promo copy on the Dandelion label. And man, this is a beautiful record. I love this song. I love this one. I love her version of Back to Stay. And it's just a really great album for a rainy Sunday morning with a cup of coffee. So really cool record, one I'm very happy to have. Next, another antique mall grab, and this is Zebra by Jacques DeJohnette. This is a soundtrack album. I had never heard of this before, but apparently this is a soundtrack for a film that was released I want to say Africa. I could be completely wrong here, but this was a later U.S. Reprinting, and this one came out in 1989, with the actual soundtrack being recorded in 1985. But wow, just a really cool atmospheric album, very ambient, and kind of reminds me a little bit of Tutu, not quite so much on that electro-funk album, or jazz bend, but just very atmospheric, lots of electric drumming from Jack, and it's just a cool record. I would highly recommend people seek this out and give it a listen. And then another one that I was so excited to find. It has big writing on it, a little, the cover's a little damaged, but the vinyl sounds mint. And this is Gang of Four Entertainment. This is one of my favorite post-punk albums of all time, with one of the greatest opening tracks, Ether. This is a hard-hitting, hard smacking record. I love this album, and it's just so freaking good. Love Gang of Four, and Entertainment is one of the best debut records of all time. So really happy to have this in the collection. Then another one that I was really happy to have. I'm a huge fan of Donald Byrd's kind of jazz funk period, and this was, the beginning of it, I would say. This is Donald Byrd, Fancy Free, and just a really nice, light album. It's not very hard-hitting, it's very lilting, and it just has a really good feel to it. So this is a nice one to get your morning started off with, and it's very hard to find these original copies for a decent price. Found this one for 15 bucks. Has some ring damage to it, but it sounds great. So really happy to have Donald Byrd's Fancy Free in the collection. And as everyone knows, I'm a huge fan of surf music and a big fan of novelty records, and this brings the two together, and this is monster sounds and dance music from Frankie Stein and his Ghouls. I mean, look at that artwork. That is awesome. This is Frankie Stein and his Ghouls were a studio band that came out of where were you from? I think that it was New Jersey, and no one knows who played on these records, but they're really great surf albums with a Halloween bend to them, and it's so much fun. I love these type of records, and this style really hits well for me. So a really cool find, hard to find here in this area, and very appreciated to have in the collection. And another album from Eroding Winds that I was so jazzed to find. This is Michael White's Magic Music Company, Go With The Flow. And this is some really great jazz funk from the Impulse label. This is, it was marked down quite a bit because the sleeve's in pretty rough shape, but these are really hard to come across. And this is excellent sampling DJ music. I think that this is just one of those records that will definitely be hitting my table as I start to just want to be in a really good, pumped up mood for the summer. This is really going to go well with this soundtrack of the summer. So really cool music. And this one came from the Exclusive Company in Oshkosh. My buddy there, Isaac, gave me a great deal on it. This is a promotional copy of the Many Grooves of Barbara Lewis, and honestly I was feeling a little burnt out on music, and I don't know, I just wasn't finding much that was really hitting me, but you know, he pulled this out for me. He said that they were holding it, but he would definitely give me a deal on it. Usually these copies are going for around $60-$70, but he gave it to me for $24.99, and man, I can't thank him enough for it. This is just a solid album of soul, funk, on the Enterprise label, which was a subsidiary of Stax, and man, it just hits really well. Has that southern soul funk dripping all over every tune, and great version of Windmills of My Mind on here. This is a great album, and one that I'm so happy to have in the collection. And then finally, this might be the most expensive and rarest album I found while I was out, and also one of the best deals, but I don't know if I'm gonna keep it yet. I have to listen to it a couple more times. It's from a band I love, but from the period that really wasn't their best. It's their last album that they came out with. This is Susie and the Banshees of the Rapture. This is an original 95 pressing, and you just never ever see copies of this. This is incredible to find, and he only had it labeled at $7. It's in, the vinyl is in near mint condition, other than the clipping, the sleeve is too. But this is a really cool record to just find in the wild. You never find these 90s records, and I think that's really cool to have. I'm gonna have to give it a few more listens, see if it's something that I would rather just sell or trade for. If there's something that maybe is in your collection that you think I might like, drop me a comment. Let's see what we can talk about. But I'm still thinking on it, but it's really cool to find this one. Usually going for around $70 to $80. Finding it for $7, it's pretty neat. So guys, super long video. I thank you for sticking with me, watching the entire thing, and also just thanks for taking the time just to, you know, I wanted to recharge my batteries. I haven't been making a lot of videos. It's just, this hasn't been bringing me as much joy as it has in the past. But I still want to be making videos, still want to be reaching out to you guys. This has definitely brought me a lot of joy, sharing what I found with you. And just let me know what you think, if there's anything that you would want in your collection in the comments below. And as always, I hope that you guys have a great day on your own personal oasis. Cheers.